All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 119 of the Fantasy Timeline, a proud member of the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. I'm Josh at Real Fantasy TL. I'm with my co-host with the most, Drew at DR_PRA. Drew, how are you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Had a day off. Was able to get some things done around the house and ready to go.
Look at this guy bragging. He got a day off, didn't have to work. I
I didn't say
expect you to
that.
I expect you to carry the show, all right? Since some of us stiffs had to go into work today and do something.
I'll do my
Uh,
best.
I'm just messing with you, man. Uh, if you're watching us on the YouTube, which you should be, you see that we got a guest this week. I would like to introduce Jeremy at Popes FFH. Jeremy, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing swell. I didn't have the day off either. I did have a work training though. I got home a little early, so
All
I
right.
got some stuff done. Not probably as much as Drew, but I did get some. I appreciate being on. So
The only thing I got done today was doing IT in my own house and trying to figure out my internet. It's really the only thing I got done today. You guys are doing much better than I did. But before we go any further, Jeremy, if you want to let everybody know where they can find you, what you're doing, what you're up to.
yeah. So you guys can find me on Twitter. It's at Popes FFH. It's usually the easiest place to find me. I answer DMs, anything. You can shoot direct tweets. Mostly the big thing I'm pushing out right now will be like rookie threads, rookie material in general. Sometimes just some little one-line tweets, anything like that. Also, you can find any of my writing over at Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Pushing out some USFL content if you're into that. Starting up. Also, some rookie material, and then I'll probably have something here or there for yards per. Just gotten so busy outside of the fantasy world that I slacking a little bit on getting all the articles out there, but they're coming.
USL like Rochester Rhinos USL?
No, USFL.
Like USFL. Okay, I missed the F in there. You got excited for a second.
I may have not have said that, but might have slipped there. But yeah, started back up, So yesterday was a big day.
Yeah, yesterday was a big day. I will say, if you're not following Jeremy, you should. The rookie breakdowns are amazing. I read all those threads as I see them because this is how I do my rookie scouting. I follow a lot of smart people and I try to aggregate everything that they're saying, try to pick out the good, maybe dismiss some of the stuff that I may not totally 100% see myself. So Jeremy's one of those people. So if you see those rookie threads, they're long, but they're informative. Like that's the thing. Sometimes people see a thread and they're like, "Oh my, this is like 17 messages long. I can't read all this." But if you read them all, you really get a great understanding of whatever prospect Jeremy's talking about at the time. So I just wanted to. You did not pay me to say that. That's just my own personal opinion on the matter. So I just want to let everybody know that if they, it's worth their while to actually sit down and read it. So Jeremy, a little USFL while we're talking about it, since the NFL news right now is at a snail's pace. We're at that time of the year right now where combine hasn't quite come upon us yet, and we have no news. Was there anything you saw in the USFL draft that started yesterday and ended today that you thought was interesting? Any players you're keeping an eye out for? Do you have a favorite team? Anything?
Yeah, there was definitely some interesting things. Shea Patterson, if we all remember him from Michigan, he ended up being the first pick, which was pretty surprising. A lot of people had Jordan Ta'amu kind of pegged as that guy, so that was a little bit interesting. And then the running backs I thought was pretty cool. CJ Marabelle is going to be in there. He was from Coastal Carolina. He was a big guy I was high on last year, as well as Stevie Scott out of Indiana. He got drafted too. So there's some good things there. A couple bigger defensive names. Some of these kids are also like just kind of guys that just didn't make that cut, or they might have had some off the field issues in college, didn't make it through that process. Or even with COVID, some of these kids, I was writing up something today for the New Jersey Generals, and some of them are just small school guys that didn't get a chance to have a pro day last year or the year before because of COVID. So they never really got a chance to show what they've got, what they had as measurables or anything like that at the pro day process, which forced them down the draft boards, didn't get drafted and didn't get that shot. So now luckily they're getting that quote unquote second chance. They're going to be able to play, show what they have. And I just think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. I hope that they can finish the season, unlike say the XFL or anybody like that. But yeah, and I'm going with the New Jersey Generals. I'm in Buffalo, so New York kind of close. I'm just gonna roll with it. I like the General. The uniforms are cool. I just kind of liked it, so I'm rolling with it.
Yeah, and it's always interesting because we've seen I'm old enough to remember the first XFL, and then we had XFL 2.0. We've had the AAF, and unfortunately, none of these leagues really gain enough traction to stay around for more than a season or two. And I think this would be a good thing for the NFL. I'm sure you guys heard about the little XFL NFL partnership that's going to be happening, where NFL is going to be trying out some things in the XFL to hopefully improve player safety. But it would be good just to see, like you said, Jeremy, some small school guys that maybe didn't get the opportunity. COVID wiped so many things out. Like even for prospects coming from bigger schools, it wiped out a lot. So situations like that are situations where sometimes guys just fall through the cracks. Adam Thielen is a famous example where he literally got on the team through a tryout. Wasn't drafted. Wasn't an undrafted free agent pickup. Just came off the street and literally impressed so well in a tryout that he got a spot on the team. So hopefully the USFL can stick around for multiple seasons. And we always see a few guys, a handful of guys from all of these leagues end up at least getting a shot in the NFL and doing something. So that'll be fun to see. But like I said, there not really any news going on. There was a potential like half the guys invited to the combine weren't going to show up, and then the NFL realized that they better just change all the rules they had to make sure that these guys show up. So that crisis was averted, at least for the NFL. So we're going to be having a combine with all the big names, and we'll all be watching that on TV probably. So that'll be fun. That was the only kind of little bit of news that was out there. So we're going to a lot earlier than we normally do. We're going to get right into the timeline, and the first one we got here is from Cole Uvila. I hope I said that right. At Cole Uvila. Did I get enough for Jamar? He's talking about Jamar Chase, wide receiver 1 or 2 in Dynasty, depending on your argument. So would you rather have Jamar Chase or Elijah Moore, Chase Claypool, the 106, and a 2023 first? Jeremy, you're our guest, so why don't we let you start off and tell us which side you like better?
Yeah, so I'm really torn here. I really broke it down and I looked at it. Jamar Chase is obviously the most talented player of this grouping and will be. Unless that 23 first ends up being like 1-1 or 1-2, he's the most talented player of this group. We saw it this year, 128 targets, 81 receptions, 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, tied to Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor. So, for me, I still think I lean Chase. Elijah Moore, I like as a prospect. I liked what he brought last year. I just worry that his better games were with quarterbacks who weren't Zach Wilson. So I'm still a little concerned there. There were some injury issues. He didn't really get to play the whole back half of the season with Wilson, but still in that limited experience, he only had 199 yards with Zach Wilson of his 500 and 1 touchdown of his 5. So a little bit of concerning there. I think Chase Claypool is who he is. I mean, he has back-to-back 800-yard seasons, so it just kind of seems like that's maybe who he is. He was kind of touchdown dependent in that first year. So you're really cashing in on the 1-6 and the 23 first. So, like, I think it's pretty arguably even if you want to look at a value standpoint. But I still think I want Jamar Chase just because, like you said, I mean, he's arguably dynasty wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, tied to Burrow and Zach Taylor for how long. So that's where I'm at.
I love it. All right, Drew. Is it Jamar Chase or the Elijah Moore, Chase Claypool, and 2 first package on the other side?
This was really tough. I love Chase. I really liked Elijah Moore as well. Claypool has definitely lost a little bit of his shine. It would give me a lot of pause here. This is when I think I try to put myself in the shoes of both sides of this. So if I have Chase and this is being offered to me, what's my initial reaction? I definitely have to do a double take there. And if I'm on the other end, if I'm trying to get Chase, am I willing to give this much up to get there? And I think the answer is yes. So that's where I probably the scale tips toward Chase for me. Not knowing where the 23 first is doesn't make a huge deal. I feel like the package is, if I could take the 2 wide receivers and maybe get something a little bit more upgraded for that one piece and do a better wide receiver, like maybe even like a Stephon Diggs or something like that, and then those 2 firsts, I might feel a little bit better. But yeah, I think most days, if this was offered me 10 times, probably 6 or 7 times I take Chase.
All right, so I'm going to start this the same way you guys started this and said, man, I had to really take a look at this because normally I have Jamar Chase in a few places and I'm, pretty much like, well, you better send me a deal that, knocks me off my feet if I'm even going to think about trading Jamar Chase. I looked at the deal and I said, it's interesting.
You got up on your toes, didn't you? You were close off the feet. It was close.
I was like, ooh. I was like, okay. And my initial response was, I can't do it. I can't do this. It's Jamar Chase. And while it's interesting, it wasn't like an OMG type deal. I wasn't like, whoa, I can't believe they're willing to offer all this. I love Elijah Moore. Shout out to Bill at Super Duper Flex because I was not as high on him until he spoke to me and he said, you might want to look a little bit harder. And once I looked a little bit harder, I said, you're absolutely right. And I was absolutely wrong. I should love this guy much more than I do. And thanks to him, I got him in a few more spots than I probably would have if he had not spoken to me. So shout out to my boy, Bill at Super Duper Flex. Love him. It is such a wild card because obviously Big Ben does not play into Chase Claypool's strengths, but we don't know who that quarterback is going to be. I mean, I know who it's not going to be. Mason Rudolph. I know everyone's got to, they got to get clicks this time of year because there's nothing going on. I think, listen, Mike Tomlin is too smart of a human being to sit there and go, I want to entrust a entire season to Mason Rudolph. He had to do it because Big Ben got injured and it was Mason and it was Duck Hodges and they were 8-8 and that was amazing. I think he won Coach of the Year just because of that. So it's not going to be Mason. I don't think it's going to be Dwayne Haskins either. There's less talk about that, but he is still on the roster. I mean, I think most likely they either draft somebody in the first, try to, get a Jimmy Garoppolo to come in. They trade for a Jimmy Garoppolo, something like that. So, but not knowing who the quarterback's going to be, he's like a wild card. I mean, what if it's another guy like Ben? What if it's like Teddy Bridgewater, who's just going to check it down and not make risky pass? You run into the same problem with Chase Claypool. But if they get a big arm guy in there, it could unlock him. And then the 2 first. I think both you guys mentioned it. We obviously don't know what 23 first is going to be. But even if we want to make the assumption it's the 106 again in 2023, all right. I mean, we love 2023, but all of that for Jamar Chase, if you did make this trade, Cole, I don't think you got enough. And I'm sorry to say it. I'm not trying to be mean, but like I said earlier, you need that OMG deal for me to be like, yeah. So here's one from the chat from our boy Ridley Truther. Shared this in the CKC group me, but reluctantly traded Chase for DK, Andrews, and the 202 yesterday. Weird feeling, but happy with it. Tight end premium PPR league. So this is what I'm talking about. All right. We're talking about DK. Yeah, the value's a little depressed right now, but he's a baller. We just got to hope that Seattle doesn't shoot themselves in the foot again and trade Russ. Mark Andrews, who, the rumblings are maybe he's tight end one, guys. Maybe he's that dude, And then the 202. All right, whatever, 202. That's fine. You can do whatever you want with that. But those are the kind of like DK or Elijah Moore. Yeah, it's DK. Mark Andrews or Chase Claypool. Yeah, it's Mark Andrews. Like now we're starting to get into the you're starting to speak my language now with this deal. So really, Truther, I think it's a fine deal. Drew, what do you think? Fine deal, or should he have asked for just maybe a little bit more?
I think you always want to see if you can get a little bit more, but I think he wanted to get this done. And for the tight end premium, I think he was tight end needy. So to get, at least a top 3 tight end, and DK, like you said, this is the time to get him while his value is depressed. And I really don't even think if they go with somebody besides Russ, if they trade Russ away, as long as they have somebody competent, I think DK will still be fine. I think he's good talent there. So I like that in general. I think that's a better package for me. And that's where I still can't think of the name that, if I wanted to replace Elijah Moore and Claypool, maybe T Higgins gets me there. Somebody like that in the 2 first would be close enough. But yeah, there's just it's a gut feeling that I have with the difference in the 2 trades that are here. So, but yeah, I like it at the end of the day for Ridley.
What do you think? Ridley Truther do well in his trade?
Yeah, I like that. I think you're looking at Jamar Chase to DK Metcalf this year was wide receiver 5 to wide receiver 14. So the drop isn't even that far. It's a 10 position drop. A couple of those guys sprinkled in there that probably won't be there again. Hunter Renfrew, maybe Mike Evans, Mike Williams. He kind of fell off there hard. So those guys might fall out of there. DK could slide up a little bit. Like you said, Russ with a full year. This is also with Russ not having the full year. So for me, that drop-off there is a lot better than the drop-off from Jamar Chase to Elijah Moore, which we have a ton of questions about with Zach Wilson at quarterback. And then I'm all in on Mark Andrews as tight end 1. I've been pushing him since the beginning of last year. Like, I just liked the situation. I like who he is. I think that Lamar loves him in the red zone, that offense. So for me, getting him in a tight end premium, for me, that's great. I mean, that's just gravy. That's enough of the gravy to push it over to go from Chase to Waddle. Drop 10 positions from Chase to DK, and I get Mark Andrews, and then a 22 or the 2-2, which is probably going to be like Pickens or
Elijah Moore,
Kenny Walker, someone, Elijah Moore-ish all over again. So I like that.
I love it. And Ridley, one day we'll be a professional podcast. We'll get a little soundboard, and you would have gotten the clap right there. You would have gotten the clap sound effect from us because I love that deal. I love it. See, Jeremy hooking us up with the sound effects. Love that deal for you. You also mentioned went back and forth for quite a while on that one. And listen, when it comes to a guy like Jamar Chase, I doubt very highly the first deal is going to get it done because most people don't come with their great first deal right away. They give you like their 4th or 5th best deal, and you got to work your way up there. So I love it. I love that deal, and that's Cole. That's kind of what you're looking for when you are trading a guy away like Jamar Chase, who's an elite talent right now. So, all right, let's move on to the next one. This is from the Dynasty Lefty at the Dynasty Lefty. This is a 12-team super flex. So we got Scary Terry McLaurin and the 107, or Jaylen Waddle. So this is very interesting because I feel, at least in my timeline, Jaylen Waddle has been getting a lot of love. People love Jaylen Waddle. They love new head coach Mike McDaniel, who I think had a comment the other day where he said, "You better play Jaylen Waddle in fantasy. He's going to be a star." And the fantasy community loves when they get shouted out by actual NFL coaches and players, because a lot of times, they dunk on us more than they appreciate us. So Drew, why don't you start us off on this one? You want Scary Terry in that 107, or do you want Jaylen Waddle?
It's another tough one for me. I like Waddle a lot. As you know, I am a bit of a Tua fan, not a truther by any means, but I'm a fan.
A bit. Ooh, okay. Keep going.
But I think there's a lot of good stuff to come for Waddle. I'm excited about McDaniel being there. So, but I think for right now, the value still is on the Mclaurin side. He's still a wide receiver one, or he certainly should be most weeks. And then middle of the first, we're wide receiver heavy again. So I think you have an opportunity to, if you're concerned about McLaurin's age, to buy back some years and get in on another younger guy. And maybe, if this is an additional first for you, maybe you bump up a little bit if you really want to go after one of the top 2 or 3 receivers in this class coming up. So I think for me, I would probably be on the McLaurin side the majority of the time.
All right, Jeremy, before I let you answer, really truth or knows the deal, Lefty loving. Drew is a huge Tua fan. Huge. He loves the guy. Drew and I have a wager for this upcoming season. He's taking the lefty Tua Tagovailoa, and I am taking Trevor Lawrence. I couldn't believe that he actually he wanted to make the wager, but bless him, he's out there, he's doing his thing, he's showing love for the new generation of throwing Samoans. So all right, Jeremy, who do you like in this one? F1 and the 107, or Jaylen Waddle?
This is another tough one. I think this is a pretty fair deal, but I think I'm going to agree with Drew here. I'm going to take the 2-part assets here. Jaylen Waddle is great. I love Jaylen Waddle. I mean, it's undeniable. I mean, he set the rookie receiving or reception record. So it's another guy that just had a really good rookie season. He got that vote of confidence from Mike McDaniel already. The offense really is leaning towards him. Tua does enjoy those routes, the shorter routes, the slant routes, the routes that allow Jaylen Waddle to explode and use his speed and versatility. So it's hard to go against him. But the way that I looked at it is it's a super flex draft. It's 1-7. So I'm saying, okay, I'm going to get Terry McLaurin. And I'm like, I really like Jaylen Waddle. Alabama receiver, speedy, fast, does well yards after the catch. Does it sound like anybody coming out this year? Jamison Williams. Most likely is going to be right about 1-7. So for me, especially in a super flex, I'm thinking I can maybe get best of both worlds here. If Jamison Williams, he might not fall to you at 1-7, and you might, you got to eat your crow, but I just think that he's going to be close in a super flex. I mean, most of the early drafts have him at 6 in a 1 QB from what I was looking at. So,
oh yeah,
I feel like he probably is going to be right around there, depending on, aside from like a spectacular landing spot where he shoots up the board, because that could definitely happen as well. But at the moment, the way it looks, I'm going to take Terry McLaurin, who's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. I think he would have finished a little higher this year had the Washington offense been a little bit more potent, been able to get to the red zone a little bit more. So for me, I still like Terry. I think that he's still always going to be that borderline wide receiver one. And I think Jaylen Waddle can get there too. I just really like 1-7 as in a way to also possibly get Jaylen Waddle again. So I'm just going to take that side for me.
And I love guests that do my job for me, because I was actually going to ask you what asset or assets you thought might be hanging around at the 107. So you beat me to the punch and already answered the question. Man, if it's Jameson Williams, oh my goodness. I mean, that's just so nice. That's just so nice. It's
Yeah, I
like,
mean, your other option might even be Kenny Walker if you really need a running back. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
really, I mean, 1-7 is actually a really good pick. And even, you know what I mean? Like, those first 8 to 9 this year are actually going to be pretty solid, in my opinion.
right.
I think after that, it starts to get real dicey. You don't really have much outside the first round, I think. But
So
1-7.
that's kind of where your cutoff is, either like the 108, 109 this year.
Yeah, especially in non-superflex. Even in superflex, it's going to be kind of there because I feel like a lot of these quarterbacks nobody's going to risk it on. I feel like you're going to get Malik Willis. People will take that jump on him early in the first round of superflex. You might get Sam Howell in there, maybe. I guess it's going to depend on how they come off the board at the actual NFL draft. But I mean, they might shoot up, and you might get even more and push some of these guys back. I just feel like you're going to start seeing quarterbacks at about 8 or 9 in the first round.
And see, and this is just, I'm using kind of anecdotal evidence here, but I think Malik Willis is the guy this year that rides that train to like the top 10. I mean, just because we've already seen it, Senior Bowl, obviously, all the practices helped him out so much. I mean, and I think the combine's going to come here. I think he's going to test amazing athletically. And if he just throws decent, in the throwing drills, I mean, I think it's going to be, I think he takes that train ride into the top 10. And then, we do this all the time. We go, well, he was taken in the top 10 in the NFL draft. So obviously that means he has to be a high pick in our rookie drafts, which I get the thought process behind it. Obviously, the higher the draft capital, the longer teams are willing to stick around, unless your name is Josh Rosen.
Poor guy.
Yeah, I took him. I took him that year. I had me a lot of Josh Rosen, and then I had me a lot of a guy that I cut very quickly after that. But that I'll cry about that another day.
We've all got him.
So I think Malik Willis could actually be a guy that once we are, end of April, beginning of May, we're starting to do our rookie drafts. We're starting to get into it. We're looking at like Malik Willis as a top 3 rookie pick. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just kind of reading the tea leaves, so to speak, that, this is probably what's going to happen, because it happens to at least one guy every year. He takes a train ride up to the top, and then we're like, oh, well, I guess we have,
And I think as a fantasy asset, Malik Willis is deserving of that top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think even if he doesn't get that draft capital, he'll still be a top 5 super flex pick for sure, just because the upside's there. He's Trey Lance all over again. You know what I mean? He's got that rushing floor. Yeah, the passing isn't as refined as you'd like. A little bit of a smaller school guy, but like it's just there. The talent's there, and it's the NFL is starting to take risks on these guys now that just have that talent that is refinable over time. Josh Allen really kind of started that push here in Buffalo. You know, I mean, it was just an anomaly. I mean, I'm not saying that anybody will do what he did again. He seems more like a unicorn of that nature, but like it's a possibility. He proved a lot of people wrong that, yeah, okay, just because you have a poor completion percentage or maybe your passing isn't as refined coming out, that you're not dead in the water. It can be fixed. It can be improved. So for me, I do think Malik Willis deserves that. For rookie drafts, like the super flex is going to be interesting to see. Like you said, I'm interested to see come April where everybody falls and see if any quarterbacks push up. I just feel like this class is so weak and not loved that you're going to see like almost even like last year, a lot of people, other than the fact that you had Trevor, if you didn't have Trevor Lawrence and all these guys coming out, Jamar Chase would have been a clear 1-1 in Superflex, and some people may have even taken him there. So you're going to see that this year, possibly even with like Treylon Burks or Garrett Wilson or Bryce Hall, like somebody like that could end up still being the 1-1, and you might get Malik Willis in the 2 or 3 spot. But I'm just curious to see how it falls. There's not as much pushback in Superflex this year to get those talented guys falling back to like the beginning of the second round that we did last year. So
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think this is going to be a very interesting year for rookie drafts because I think for the most part, and obviously owners will come in and surprise us at one pick or another pick, but usually you can map out the first half of your draft, probably, maybe even 2/3 of the first round. And you go, all right, I pretty much know where everybody's going to go. I pretty much know the orders. There's always one guy that comes in and does something crazy. But for the most part, I think this year, every league that you're in is, Burks is probably going to be 101 for just about everybody. Even in Superflex now, obviously owners get a little bit more desperate for QB and it might take them a little bit higher. But Breece Hall, but then it's going to be like, all right, man, like who do you like? And I listen to a lot of people, and you hear some people, Garrett Wilson is the guy. Like he should be wide receiver one. People are going to, throw their hat in the ring. Even for someone like a Chris Olave, it's going to be like, oh, I really like him and what he can do. And I've heard people say he should be like wide receiver 2 or 3 in this class, and I've heard some people go like, an NFL team shouldn't even take that guy in the first round. So it's like just the range of outcomes on almost every player is just so wide that I think rookie drafts are going to be they're going to be kind of crazy. It's going to be fun. It's going to be kind of like a Hunger Games situation. It's going to be like, all right, like who's the boldest, who's the wildest, who's got the best strategy, and it's gonna be fun. Rookie drafts are going to be a lot of fun this year because you're really not going to know what to expect. If you're at like 106, 107, most years you're like, all right, one of these 2 or 3 guys are going to fall to me. Like I know it. Like if you're at like 106, 107, you're like, it could be anybody. Like who the hell knows what's going to be there at 106 or 107? Fun. So I can't wait for that. But
what are you thinking with those mid-range picks, Jeremy? From what I'm looking at, what I'm hearing from you a little bit, I'm wondering, like, if I have the 106, 107, I'm immediately looking to push back maybe to 109 and pick up an early to mid second, or see if I can consolidate and maybe have a few more dart throws at the turn there. And depending on how these rookie drafts go, maybe I get a quarterback that surprises, at the 112 or the 202 or something like that. And I can still maybe be happy with the skill position at 108, 109 if I move back a little bit. What are your thoughts there?
I think it's going to be almost like Josh said. It's going to be almost draft dependent. You're going to have to see how your draft starts to play out. I wouldn't really make that move until you're almost on the clock. You kind of see what's going on with your draft in particular. But I don't hate that move, honestly, because if you're sliding back, it depends on what you want. If you want a running back, you're going to have to be kind of up near the top, because after the top 2, and then Kenneth Walker's kind of that fringe too. A lot of people don't love him. I kind of do. So there's like 3 for me that are like, okay, yeah, they're good. And then the rest, it's just kind of like a dice roll on how it's going to be. So like, if you want a running back, I'd probably stay in that 5-6 range. But if you want a wide receiver, I'm perfectly fine with moving back to like 8, 9, like you said, pick up that early second or mid second. And like you said, you could either get a quarterback at 9 or 10, or you're going to have your picks of some of these receivers that just didn't have good senior years or just kind of fell because the receiver class is a little bit deeper. David Bell is going to be around there. That's a guy that I like a lot. Very productive out of Purdue. And then George Pickens might fall down there. He's a guy that needs a little bit of refining still, but I really liked him coming into the season before his injury. And there's some other guys down there. Wan'Dale Robinson's pushing up. There's a lot of guys that are going to be in that range that you could get like you said, almost that double dart throw, because I feel like that's where this draft goes. It gets pretty much real quick. You're throwing darts, I think, in the second round, where it's this guy could be good or he's going to just bust. I I don't feel as confident as I did going into like last year, where you were saying, "Oh, the mid-second, I still am getting guys that I know will probably be productive." Where this year, I feel like you're hitting that end of the first round, and you're really starting to be like, "Okay, we're rolling the dice here."
Yeah. So if you can go for the home run swing, do it. If you can afford to do it because you're just loaded, you can get a couple of lottery tickets, or if you're just desperate in a rebuild, like some of us are in certain leagues, and you have a high mid pick or something, and you really want to try to fill out a little bit of a roster, is what I'm hearing. Otherwise, try to take the more sure things in the top half of the first.
Yeah, or even move. Honestly, I know that it's like been pushed around, but like the 23rd rounds or the 2023 picks, if you can move out of your first this year on the clock for something in the 23rd season, like even a first or a second or a pair of seconds or something, next year's second rounds will still be valuable. A lot of people are pushing for the firsts. But I mentioned it on another podcast a little bit back that I feel like the seconds are a kind of good thing to target at the moment, because a lot of people want the first so bad that the seconds you can get still affordable. And there's going to be a lot of talent in the second round too. Again, almost like last year, where you're going to get that early second round is going to be pretty valuable as well.
Yeah, that John Nash principle.
Yeah.
I mean, Drew, what you could also do, and this is just an idea, the way up to 102. I think there's a team there that could be interested in trading with you, and get yourself whatever you want. Just throwing that out there for you.
Okay.
I feel like this is an A and B conversation going on up there.
We need to move on.
Just a little fantasy timeline listener league banter there. Drew won that league last year. And we
got lucky.
We came in third, but along the way we actually snagged ourselves the 102. So just got a broke or something on the side here.
This is the team that has Jamar Chase and Elijah Moore already, and CeeDee Lamb.
We also have CeeDee Lamb.
Josh doesn't make these choices because he doesn't have to. He's already got all the good assets.
We also have T.J. Hawkinson and the Muth. The Muth is loose on our team. We have Jonathan Taylor,
Gibson,
Joe Burrow. We just have a couple of guys.
I east cast these guys on the was it the Sunday night game or the Monday night game where the Cowboys just absolutely obliterated their opponent, and CeeDee Lamb had 0 points after halftime.
Yeah.
So by the skin of my teeth on that one.
We don't need to talk about that. We'll move on to the next tweet after those comments. This is from Courtney 1013 at Love Tractor 3. Is it time to move off of Zeke? What is his value? Thoughts? Now, this has been on the show sheet for a couple of days, and then the tweet that went viral today on the timeline. Do you want player A that gets you 15 points a week for all 17 weeks, or the guy that gets you 25 points a week for the first 8 weeks and then misses the last 8 weeks of the season? And everybody was like player A, and player A was Zeke Elliott, and player B was Derrick Henry, and then everybody was like, oh, wait a minute, no, I want Derrick Henry. And I was like, look, you said A in the other one, so. And then this was actually blowing up in the FTC, the fantasy timeline chat. And just remember, if you want to jump in on that and get into the Zeke Elliott debates there, DM myself or Drew, or DM us at Fantasy Timeline. We'll throw you right in there, and you can have a good time debating the merits of Ezekiel Elliott. But we're going to debate him on here because this is going to be very interesting. I'm going to go last, since I am the biased Dallas Cowboys fan here. But Jeremy, what do you think? What do you think about Zeke? What is his value, if he has any value, and any thoughts you might have about him?
So here's where I stand with Zeke. I'm not selling Zeke unless I get like a late first round pick for him. And the only reason is he still finished as an RB1. I know everybody likes to make fun of him that he lost his step. He doesn't look as explosive as Tony Pollard, this and that, and whatever else they want to say. But ultimately, Zeke's productive. I mean, he had 1,000 yards again this season. Yeah, his yards per carry's kind of gone down, but it went up. If you want to get technical, it went up 0.2 yards this year. It went from 4 to 4.2. We're on an increase, but it's still the touchdowns. I mean, he had 10 touchdowns. That Dallas offense is very potent. And anytime they're in there within the 5-yard line, they'll hand it to Zeke 3 times. They don't care. They're paying him all the money. He can't really get out from underneath that contract. So he's locked into being, whether you want to argue that he's just a goal line back. I mean, we saw it. Damian Harris was another one this year. I mean, like 15 touchdowns. Like the touchdowns are king in fantasy football. So for me, I get it. I know Tony Pollard's breathing down his neck, but I still am holding Zeke unless it's like a rebuild. If I need to rebuild, I'm maybe moving him. And I know it's going to be hard because his value should still be a late first, but I highly doubt you're going to get that. So I'm probably looking for like a second paired with like a younger prospect, maybe like a Michael Carter if you can, or even maybe Michael Carter straight up. I don't know. I just really don't know, because to me, I value Zeke enough to hold on to him. Like, I just still think that he's got a year or two worth of production, that if I think I can win in those ranges, I'm probably just going to hold him, just because it's just the production's there, despite whatever everybody wants to say on fantasy Twitter.
All right, Drew, what are your thoughts about Zeke Elliott? What do you think his value might be? Any of that good stuff?
Yeah, I think my initial reaction is I would probably consider an early second on most teams, unless, like Jeremy said, I just need him as running back depth for this year, because I think I have another good chance of making it. Michael Carter, I think, is a good option that you might be able to get a second piece with, whether it's another second round pick or maybe a wide receiver that's still up and coming or something. But yeah, I would definitely be looking to shop Zeke and see if somebody else would give me anywhere close to appropriate value. If I could buy back years and a wide receiver, it's probably what I'd target first, is if there's maybe somebody that disappointed. I don't know what, like maybe like a Rashad Bateman or somebody like that, if you feel good about him coming up. Somebody who disappointed, had some missed games last year, and you could pivot off of him for somebody that maybe needs running back or feels like they need running back. That'd be where I'd start. And if I'm not getting anything close to that, then I'm also content to just let him sit there until season starts. And somebody's going to need a running back by week 4. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, so I'm going to lean more towards what Jeremy said. I can't imagine giving up Zeke for anything less than a first. Because look, I mean, I've been fighting this fight for a couple of years, so I've battle scarred with Zeke here. You can say whatever you want. He's slow. He's fat. He's this. He's that. Dude's just an RB1 every year. And it's because he plays 15 out of 17 games, 16 out of 17 games. He doesn't get hurt. Now, listen, this could be the year. We said the same thing about Derrick Henry until Derrick Henry got hurt. So I'm not saying that, it's 100% possibility that he plays, 16 to 17 games. But he does until he doesn't. And I'm not going to predict that this is the year that all of a sudden something happens and he doesn't play. That's the reason why he's a top 10 guy every year, is because he plays all the games. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for guys that are going to be out there. You can kind of put in your lineup. You don't have to make crazy decisions. And honestly, I think if I am going to trade him, I'm trying to get draft capital, because I don't think I like any of the players that are probably in the range that people are going to be willing to pay to trade him away. Unless it's, I think it was Jeremy that said, unless it's a rebuild. And then at that point, all right, get yourself, 2 young guys or a young guy in a pick and keep it moving. But, Drew also made a good point. This isn't the time to sell him. because we're saying everything that everyone else has been saying, that he's not good. He didn't have a good season. Tony Pollard is that dude, and he's going to take Zeke's spot. It's the same thing we heard last all season, and his value is just at an all-time low. You got to wait for that game against a bad defense where he goes off for 100 yards and a touchdown, or 85 yards and 2 touchdowns, and you go, see, Zeke, he's actually really good, and you're a contender, and you need a guy that's really good. Here, take Zeke, and give me some stuff back. So, that's kind of how I feel. I feel like at this point, Zeke's actual value is never going to be in line with his perceived value. So you're kind of stuck. You either got to keep him and just ride him till the wheels fall off, or probably take a little bit less than he's actually worth. So here you go. We got this from Ridley Truther here. So he's a guy who'd probably be better off a week 10 when the contending teams running backs all go on IR. Melvin Gordon was going for 2 seconds to the right desperate team, and that you got to take advantage of those windows, and sometimes they come quickly, and you have to strike while the iron's hot. But yeah, he's a guy. I mean, if you're trading him right now, you're probably not getting very good deals. I'd actually be curious to see what like the DLF trade analyzer is or the trade finder is coming up with, because anything that's happened recently, I would probably, and I'm not going to speak for you guys, but I would probably say I wouldn't do a deep deal. So.
Jeremy, you're a Bills guy. So what about Devin Singletary, who came on in the back half of the year? What would you need in addition to him to give Zeke away, if anything?
I would probably say a second or more. As a Bills fan, as much as I'm really torn on what they're going to do, to be honest. I feel like they could easily move on from Devin Singletary. And draft like an Isaiah Spiller or somebody this year again. They do need a lot of other positions. So I can also see a route where Devin Singletary is your starter again next year, and we could see him with a full workload like you saw at the back half of the season and be a mid to high end RB2 again next year. So the value is interesting on both of these players. So that's where it's going to be tough. Right at the moment, I'd probably still want maybe like 2-1 in Devin Singletary, and then I'd move him. I just still feel like Zeke was like, even like Josh said, I mean, he was RB7, but he was only one of 3 players in the top 12 running backs that played all 17 games. So for me, I do like to look at somebody who can and is available. I get that fantasy points are king, but like if you're hurt, you're not getting any points. So like that health kind of does weigh a little bit for me.
Okay.
So, I mean, Devin Singletary is another guy that played all 17 games. So it's a good argument and Singletary is definitely an interesting guy to bring up for that fact, because I feel like their value is probably closer than a lot of people would think. Especially because, like you said, he came out at the end of the year. A lot of people think higher now of Devin Singletary than what they did at the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the year, you could have got Devin Singletary for like a third.
Yeah.
And now I don't know what his even value is. I haven't even really looked or checked to see where he's at, but I'm sure he's pretty close. So I would say, yeah, probably Devin Singletary, maybe a late second.
What about
earlier, but
Twitter darling Amon-Ra St. Brown, who some people are still snagging late first for?
I mean, I would take Zeke over him personally. I like Amon-Ra. I just don't know if he was like a product of the situation. I think the Lions definitely, they have a lot of picks and a lot of cap space. I think that there's going to be more wide receivers there for him to compete with this year. So I do like Amon-Ra. I don't, his value right now is absurd.
It is.
Amon-Ra St. Brown. I can't even believe you, man. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Man, you got to be kidding me. That was a personal attack on me, and I know it was, because
I'm trying to hold some viewers here, Josh. I'm just trying to keep some people keep their interest.
Yeah, like Amon-Ra St. Brown's family. That's the only viewers you're holding right now with that talk for Zeke. What are we doing here? Devin Singletary? Listen, I like Devin Singletary. Good guy. One of Buffalo's finest. But come on, you know how we all had our yearbook and we had best hair and most likely to succeed. Buffalo Bills most likely to take another third round running back. Let's keep it real here. Like Devin Singletary didn't do enough to cement himself as the starter, unchallenged. I mean, Buffalo's probably taking another guy at some point during the draft, and they're going to work. I mean, I love the Buffalo Bills offense. I mean, it's a pleasure to watch. It is appealing to the eye, but they just do whatever the hell they want at the running back position. I mean, we could wake up week 1 of the 2022 season and Zach Moss is the starter. I mean, we have no freaking idea when it comes to Buffalo Bills and running back. So I don't need that kind of question mark with a Singletary and Amon-Ra. You take all the Amon-Ra you want. I'll sit over here on my island, and I know I'm on an island with very few people, but Amon-Ra ain't gonna be on none of my teams.
What if you could get both of them, Josh? What if I offer you both Singletary and Amon-Ra for Zeke?
I think that's a trade I leave in the box till it expires. I think that's what I do with that trade. I leave that expire because I feel like at that point you're trying to personally attack me. So I leave that sit for the entire time. Man, I can't. My man Zeke, I feel for him. All right. Thanks for that question, Courtney. By the way, we really got to dive into that and have a little bit of fun.
Expose some feelings over here.
Well, I mean, I'm just sad about the disrespect that my boy Zeke is getting. That's all. I mean, nobody's disrespecting me, but man, Zeke is just catching strays left, right, and center, man. But let's move on to this next one from Jared D. Riccadonna at Rico RICCO _3733. He said, I'd rather have Hawkinson, TJ Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz, Darren Waller, Kyle Pitts, and Dallas Goedert over George Kittle in redraft or dynasty. And then he ducks because he knows he's going to be catching some bullets coming his way. So, all right, let me start with this one. All right. Pitts over Kittle. I think we can all agree that that's a slam dunk. I think we can all agree on that one. Drew, you're nodding your head. Not so much. You're not on the Kyle Pitts bandwagon.
I still have reservations, but I think value-wise, you'd have to.
What are your reservations? I'm curious about this. I really want to dive deep into that statement. What are your reservations about Kyle Pitts?
I'll start with Matt Ryan.
It's the same quarterback that got him 1,000 yards this season. So
it is. He'll be another year older. We'll see. Who they have playing across from him. If Calvin Ridley decides that football is for him and he wants to come back, then that only helps. Figuring out who they're going to get to draw some of the coverage away, because at this point, he's the only show in town there. They're still waiting to get a running back. Kyle Pitts is uber talented, and I think, long term, I would definitely, again, that's where the value is because he's so young, he's so productive already. But for a redraft, even, for this single season, where you have to take Kyle Pitts compared to where you can probably take George Kittle this year for redraft, I could definitely make the argument to wait for Kittle and see if you can get positional value, an advantage somewhere else where somebody's taking Kyle Pitts maybe at the end, mid or end of the first round in your redraft draft.
So Drew, what I'm hearing is we might be able to make a Kyle Pitts George Kittle bet here. Is that
Josh?
What I'm
you have a problem.
And I'm fine to admit that, but don't deflect from the question. Do I hear a Kyle Pitts versus George Kittle bet?
What kind of bet?
For the 2022 season alone, Matt Ryan, you just said he's going to be a year older. Calvin Ridley may or may not be there. It could be Russell Gage and Olamide Zaccheaus and maybe Cordarrelle Patterson. Who knows what position he'll play this year versus George Kittle, man. And, that high-flying Trey Lance-led San Francisco 49ers offense. Ball's in your court, Drew. Do you want to take it?
Overall points?
Overall points.
I still think there's a good chance that Pitts outscores, but I don't think it's by so much that I'd want to take him where I'd have to in redraft compared to where I could get George Kittle.
So that sounds like a no?
If we're going straight points, probably not.
Do I have to give you some points to make this bet happen?
Oh, God. I would expect Kittle to be within 10% of whatever Pitts scores this year.
That's like high-level math that I don't feel like doing right now.
That's 225 versus 250, depending on what your scoring is for a tight end.
So within 25 points?
Depending on what your scoring is.
All right.
I don't know what Pitts scored last year. 1,000 yards, and he had what? Did he have 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, it was kind of sad. It might even been 1 touchdown.
Yeah,
it was pretty sad.
One in London.
Yeah.
He had 176 PPR points.
Okay, so straight PPR. So if you have a premium, so it depends on if we just want to go like straight PPR.
We'll go OG listener league.
Okay,
scoring,
which is what 1.5, right?
Yeah.
So he was just over 200 in that. Then he was probably 215, 220 if I had to guess with our premium. Because what do you have for how many catches did he end up with? 60.
Yeah.
Please hold. 60.
I like this one
68
from Short Logic. He got all of Julio's touchdowns. That's a good one, Short Logic. He got that Julio touchdown rate there.
So 68, half that is an extra 34 points. So you said 170 something, right? In PPR?
176.
176. So yeah, so exactly. So that's 210 is what he scored. So that means Kittle, I would expect him to score somewhere in the 190 range then. Just out of curiosity, what did Kittle score in PPR last year?
198, and then he had 71 receptions.
So really, you should be giving me points in this situation. I shouldn't be giving you points. I'm just saying.
You are. We might have to table this. We might have to
all right.
this.
Well, this will be one we come back to, like Josh Jacobs. You never got back to me on.
Oh my God.
I keep receipts. They're all up here, but I keep receipts. All right. So after that very long sidetrack. So maybe we don't agree on Pitts. So I'll just say I think Pitts, I take over him. And then the other ones, I can see paths for all those other guys. But, I mean, like with what Drew and I just discussed, if I was going to bet money on that, I don't think that I would bet money on any of those other guys passing George Kittle in points. Obviously, I'm assuming that every person on this list plays 17 games, which obviously won't happen. But, I mean, it's bold. And, if you maybe want to take the anti-Trey Lance approach and say that he's going to be kind of a quote-unquote true rookie this year because he's most likely going to be playing he's going to be starting all the games. And he'll need, a year or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, whatever you want to call it, to acclimate himself to the NFL. I mean, I guess you can make that argument, but I mean, George Kittle's a beast. And those other guys, I mean, TJ Hawkinson can get the targets, but we've also seen him get hurt. Dalton Schultz is a free agent. If he's back in Dallas, okay, maybe. But, if he ends up somewhere else, who knows what that's going to be like. Darren Waller is a beast, but it's going to be interesting to see the type of offense that Josh McDaniels puts together. how much Hunter Renfrow is going to be involved, because we all know if it's that New England offense, the slot receiver is going to get like a million targets. So we got that one. Got like I like the player, but he's never really kind of. I mean, he had that. What was it? He was tight end 10 that one year when Zach Ertz was tight end 6 or tight end 5, but he's never really bought with a top 3 finish. So, I mean, it's bold. I'll say that much, and you can make an argument for any of those guys, but for all of those guys, I think that's a tough road to go down. Jeremy, what do you think about this one?
So I wrote it in my notes as this: Hawkinson, yes, purely based on age, for dynasty. Redraft, I'm probably still taking Kittle. Schultz, absolutely not. I just don't. I get that he had a good year this year, but like you said, free agency, I think he might chase the money. Dallas isn't going to have it to give it to him. So, I mean, there's some teams. Miami has the top cap space. They're going to need a tight end if they let Gesicki walk. You could see him move there. There's a lot of options for Dalton Schultz, so I feel like he might move on. So I'm not loving him over Kittle. Waller to me is a push. I think that even though, like you said, McDaniel's coming over, we saw Gronk be very effective in a McDaniel's offense for many years. And the argument could just be made that they didn't love Jonnu Smith or Hunter Henry necessarily last year in his offense. So for me, I think Waller fits that Gronk mold a little bit more than the other two do. So I think he still gets his share. And that offense really is shaped like an old New England offense. They got the elite tight end. They got a slot receiver who's really good. Like we can argue Julian Edelman will say is Hunter Renfrow, not at the same level, but like that's his role. And then you got just some random field stretchers and a good run game. So to me, I feel like that's going to be perfect for McDaniels. I think Waller succeeds in there. So for me, that's a push. I feel like they're kind of the same. Pitts, same thing, yes, just based on age and length for Dynasty. Redraft, I still want Kittle. And Dallas Goedert, no. I just don't trust Hurts enough for him to ever get to that top 5 range for me for Dallas Goedert. So,
all right, Drew, you could take this question home. We already know how much you hate Kyle Pitts, so you can talk about all the other guys.
Yeah, I mean, in Dynasty, Kittle is still an elite talent. The bottom line is, if that's really what you believe, and you have, if Jared has Kittle on his team or teams, he should be looking to make some deals, because I think the majority would be very happy to take Kittle off his hands if it's Schultz and Schultz in a first. If you can get something like that for Kittle, because somebody just wants to have an elite tight end on their team, if it's a premium. My God, if you think you can get Pitts for Kittle, more power to you. I think in the long term, I would still, for Dynasty, prefer to take Pitts, and if it's Kittle plus a little to get there. Sure, but yeah, I think Jared just needs to be shopping Kittle at this point and seeing what he can get back for him based on the breadth of talent he's willing to stake his claim on.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he has 2, 4, or 5 names here, and that's not even including Andrews and Kittle. So turn that into, what is that, 7 or 8 names before you get to Kittle. Yeah, I mean, you have him on any of your teams, you're almost looking at anybody in the top 10 in tight end. So at that point,
yeah, wheel and deal, man.
Go as low as you can go, and then get some extra on top of it.
And the 10th tight end was Hunter Henry, who was 100 points behind number 2, Travis Kelce, in PPR. So that's what he's willing to give up. He was 140 behind Andrews, so that's what he's. You know what I mean? Like Dallas Goedert was his lowest guy, which was 165, and that was 140 points behind Andrews, basically, in PPR, non-premium.
And it's amazing, like and I hear people say this all the time, and I try to do it whenever I can, but man, if you don't have one of those like top 3 tight ends, you're at such a disadvantage at the position. It's insane. But let's take this question from the chat on our way out here, and this is from Ridley Truther again. If you're a contending team last season, hoping to repeat in 2022, What are you doing with IR guys like Godwin, Gallup, Ridley? Maybe hold and wait for a late season push, or get what value you can now. So that's interesting because, I mean, all three of those guys, yes, they're all on the IR, but that's pretty much the only thing that ties them together. Um, Obviously, Godwin and Gallup, late ACL injuries, late season ACL injuries, excuse me. So you're probably not seeing those guys, till October at the earliest, and that's if they have, aggressive rehabs that can, get them back on the field and get them back to uh, where they need to be. And on top of them being both IR guys, they're both free agents. So not only is it, these guys may not come back till October at the earliest, but we don't know where they're going to be. Gallup is probably not going to be in Dallas unless he takes a massive discount to stay, which I can't imagine he does. Uh, Godwin, again, he could end up. Everyone is pretty much making a pitch for Godwin right now, even with the injury. But Calvin Ridley wasn't an injury. He left the team for to deal with mental health issues he was having. And the reports coming out at least a few weeks ago, a month ago, was that he didn't want to return to Atlanta. So if those reports are true, all right, he could be a trade candidate, but those reports may also just not be true. And he's back in Atlanta. So it's kind of one of those things where he's another one where you don't know if or when he comes back, and then you don't know where he is when he does come back. So, I mean, Godwin, I'm probably keeping. Like, I'm probably just, you sit on the IR until you're ready. Whatever team signs you, I don't think is going to rush you back because they've probably signed you to a long-term deal. So if they're smart, if it's a good organization, they're not going to rush you back. They're going to wait for you to be 100% and then bring you out. Gallup, I mean, if you can get anything if you can get value for him, sure. But I mean, what are you trading for Michael Gallup right now? Not knowing where he's going to end up, and with an ACL injury that happened in the second to last week of the season. I mean, I don't even know what you can get. He might be better to keep around just because the value isn't going to be there. And then Ridley, his value is so depressed right now. I don't know if I would trade him. I would wait for him to kind of come back, and maybe he gets traded, or maybe he says, I love Atlanta, this is where I want to be, and that's when you trade him. So I don't think I would trade any of these guys right now. What do you think, Jeremy?
I agree. I did see reports though that I thought I saw. I could be wrong. I thought it was a couple weeks ago that Gallup's supposed to be ready for September, and that was the early reports. Is that he's on track to be ready for camp almost, basically.
Good for him.
We saw it even with Cam Akers, come back from that Achilles injury, that people are coming back way quicker than expected. So I haven't seen anything on Godwin. His was a little bit later, so I don't know where. Right, I think it was later, right? Or
I think it was around the same time.
Yeah, it was somewhere. They were close, so I'm
within
sure
a week or two of each other. Yeah,
so I'm sure they're kind of on the same. I'm sure if Gallup's on that range, maybe Godwin is too, but. I'm probably Godwin. He's not going anywhere. Godwin's a guy that I feel like no matter what, even with this injury, I don't think his trade value even depreciated. So it's hard to even acquire him. So I would probably still hold him. Like you said, I just think he's just too good. No matter where he goes, he'll probably be somewhat of a feature. He's very talented. So I'm keeping him. Ridley as well. I think Ridley is a guy that if he comes back is still a top 5 receiver in the NFL. No matter where he goes, because even if he gets traded, he's going to be still kind of that feature type receiver for that team, whether it's the top guy or the second guy. So for me, I'm still holding Ridley. Again, the value isn't there. People are offering random firsts. And like for me, I'm like a random first. Okay. So say the guy that's offering it is like 1.8. Like, am I going to take a risk at a guy that might just be nothing? Or do I hold Ridley, who, okay, say he never comes back, is nothing? Well, okay, the other guy could have been nothing too. Or I'm getting a top 5 receiver versus a top 36 receiver. Just for me, Ridley's value is just too low. to not even attempt to buy him. Like I would be sending late first for Ridley right now, just because I do think he comes back. I think that he had to get himself right. Mental health is a tough thing, and I get it. And there's a lot of pressure on these guys. So I think that if he does, and I think he will, kind of get over that hump, he will come back. And honestly, if he gets traded, it's even better, in my opinion. Just because I think he also is at that point, if he does come back, he's like, I don't want to come back to a rebuild. I'd rather come back to a team that's probably a competitor. So I think he'll land on a pretty decent team. So I'm not really moving him. Gallup, I would maybe trade, but like you said, what's the value? If I'm getting good value, I'll trade Gallup all day. Why not? He's just not great. I mean, I feel like he's a wide receiver too. Like you can replace him easily, in my opinion. So.
No, I agree with that, and I think I just think everything around him right now, you're just not going to get anything worthwhile. I mean, we talked about windows earlier. Unfortunately, your window to trade him, I think, was when he came back from the initial injury that led him to miss most of the beginning of the season. That was your window. Oh, he's back. All right, let's check. Because then a couple weeks later, boom, he's injured again. Drew, what do you think here, man? What do you think about these three guys, about Calvin Ridley and Michael Gallup and Chris Godwin?
Yeah, I think Godwin and Ridley, I'm fine holding them and seeing if you can get a value spike where it rebounds closer to where it's more appropriate. Gallup, with multiple injuries, sure. If you can get, I don't know what you'd even get at this point, a mid or late second for him, maybe if somebody's optimistic that he'll be back and worthwhile. I did have Ridley on an orphan that I took over a few weeks ago, so I did move him pretty quickly there because I had somebody that was interested. So I'm curious what your thoughts are, Jeremy. I sent him and Laviska Shenault and Jacoby Myers and I think like the 301 or 302 and got Devonta Smith, the 204 back.
So it was Ridley, Jacoby Myers,
Shenault, and then early third.
A third. I don't hate it. I think Devonta Smith and Calvin Ridley are very similar receivers. So for me, I think that Devonta Smith's ceiling is definitely up there in that Ridley range, or what he was like at least a wide receiver one. I think that upside is definitely there. I'm kind of out on Laviska Shenault, so I'm glad that you would have moved on from him. I don't know if it's gonna be there. I don't know. It just seems like it wasn't Urban Meyer, or is it just he just isn't gonna be what we thought he was. So I like that. I think that's a good deal on your side. I think it's pretty even. I think both sides get that. You're just carrying less of a risk. You get rid of Calvin Ridley. The other side could pay off if he comes back and he's a top 5 guy again, but we also don't know that. He's a year older. Who knows? So,
I feel like I probably gave up a little bit of value, but I was fine to do that to get a guy that I know is going to play it as well.
I feel like there's a lot less risk on your side. Like even if you want to argue that the other side maybe had a little bit more value, it's a little bit less risky to take Devonta Smith in a pick, I think, than hold on to Calvin Ridley and see what happens.
I'll take it.
I mean, you gave up Calvin Ridley for Smith in the 204 because them other guys, who cares? Them guys are going to be just chilling at the end of your bench, high-fiving each other when you're winning games.
Yeah, or the guy that you start randomly and then loses you the week because that's the week he gets the goose egg. Yeah, that's what happened with me with Shenault. Like that, I think he had one good game last year. I started him like the next week and like nothing. And I was like, "Okay, you're just going back to the bench." I'm
Feel
done.
that.
You got to believe too, between the amount of free agent money that Jacksonville has, plus the fact that they'll be picking first in every round. You got to believe that they're going to add some weapons to help Trevor Lawrence out, especially with Doug Peterson at the helm now. I can't believe that he's looking at Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault, and he's just going, all right, yeah, like this is good. Like we're gonna roll out with this, and we're gonna be just fine. Like he's like, nah, like
don't forget about DJ.
He's a free agent.
Yeah, that's true.
And he ain't coming back. He ain't coming back.
Oh, Jamal Agnew, man, league winner.
I mean, Jamal Agnew was that dude for like 4 weeks.
He was.
You were just like, I don't know who Jamal Agnew is. I don't know where he came from, but he's
converted
on my team.
safety.
That was Urban Meyer going, all right, who's open on my free agent wire? Ooh, Agnew.
Yeah.
Pick him up. All right. We got to put Agnew in the offense. That's what happened right there. He had to get into his fantasy playoffs. That's what happened.
Well, it's funny because the whole Jamal Agnew ride actually started not because of what he did on offense, but because what he did on special teams, where he returned that one punt for like 103 yards or whatever it was. And everybody was like, oh, look at this guy. And, you looked on your bench, especially if you get points for return yards. You're like, oh, God, this guy had 130 return yards, had a touch. Oh, man. And then you start seeing him on offense, and you're like, man, he somehow was the wide receiver 1 on this team. Don't know how this happened. And then, it was a short run, but we all, I actually was in a very deep 16-team league and got Jamal Agnew off the waiver after he ran back that big punt return, because we do get points in that league for returning yards. And then all of a sudden he turned into a wide receiver, and I was like, well, heck, I'm in this very deep league. I can start this guy here and there. And then he got hurt, and I was like, well, all right. We had a good run, Jamal Agnew. We're gonna have to put you on the IR now. But yeah, they got to do better than Jamal Agnew. And I forgot about Jamal Agnew and Laviska and Marvin Jones, another guy I love. But 32-year-old Marvin Jones can't be your number 1 receiver. I don't care what NFL team you're running. So, oh yeah, Ridley Truth. I forgot about this guy too. The reemergence of Quan Treadwell, who was racking up some PPR points too. T-Law already spreading it around quietly. Yeah, I think it was more because that dude was running for his life because the offensive line was not that good, and the whatever, if you want to call it a game plan, I don't think Urban Meyer came up with game plans really. I think he just told Trevor Lawrence to go out there and do what he thought was best. So Trevor Lawrence was out there running around for his life and just throwing it to whoever he thought was open. So yeah, it's gonna be very interesting for Drew to see T-Law in a real NFL offense with possibly some real NFL weapons. See if his love interest Tua can keep pace. But we'll see about that one. But all right, that's the end of the show sheet here. So that's the end of the show, as our man Dynasty Outhouse says. And before we get to our goodbyes, I do want to give our man Dynasty Outhouse a shout out for 200 episodes of the Trade Addict podcast, man. If you missed it, it was on yesterday, right here on the DAT Network. Go find it. It is a great episode. Giving that man his flowers, as they like to say, because if you don't know him, he's one of the greatest human beings in this industry. But it's amazing to see the amount of podcasts that he helped start, just giving people advice and telling people that they can do it if they just put the work in. So I want to give a shout out to Outhouse, 200 episodes of the Trade Addicts podcast, our sister show, and congratulations to him. So Jeremy, man, I want to thank you for coming, man. This was a lot of fun, lot of great insight by you, and just as a reminder to everybody where they can find you and what you're up to.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at PopesFFH. That's where most of the stuff is. I have links to my articles, stuff like that. I got a link tree in the bio if you want to. But the articles are over at Sports Gambling Podcast Network and Yards Per. And Twitter's pretty much just rookie threads, rookie content. Some other stuff will be probably sprinkled in there. Mostly Dynasty stuff throughout the offseason. So check it out. Feel free to ask any questions. DMs are always open. And thanks for having me on, guys. It was a pleasure. It was great. So...
man. Thank you for coming. It was a blast. And actually, while one of you guys were talking, I actually just retweeted your thread on Michigan's Hassan Haskins. So if you're probably like, Hassan Haskins, who's that? Yeah, this is why you need to follow at Popes FFH so you can know this stuff, because guess what? Yeah, first round picks are nice and they're pretty, but them third or fourth round picks, man, if you can find that gem, man, it does a lot for your team. So read that one if you see it, and read all his rookie threads because they're amazing. So thank you, Jeremy, for coming on. Thank you to everybody that was in the chat. Chat was lit. We had Ridley Truther. We had Short Logic. They were throwing a lot out on there. If you just came by and were just watching, didn't say anything, appreciate you too, man. It's really cool to see when people come in and come out and drop stuff in the chat. Just remember, if you are watching this, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the bell so that you know when we go live and all the other great shows, like the 200th episode of Trade Addicts Pod goes live. If you're doing the podcast thing, appreciate you guys too. We are an hour and 20 minutes into this, and you can literally be doing anything else, and you decided to sit here and listen to us just talk fantasy, man. And we appreciate you for it. If you just stumbled upon us and you're not subscribed, hit subscribe. If you can rate and review, do that too. It gets us out there. You know, these podcast directories have algorithms and stuff, and I don't know how they work, but I know that rates and reviews help out somehow. So that would be appreciated. And on that note, Drew, we are out of here.